This could get ugly. I know that the falling wedge doesn't look too good. Unfortunately, Bitcoin is seeing a rejection from one of the two lines of resistance that we drew for Bitcoin to breach until I am bullish again and want to add more to my Bitcoin DCA longs. I mentioned that until Bitcoin is able to break above 12.2, which would invalidate the double top on the 4-hourly and daily timeframes, right? This is a target of 100K, by the way, not the best. We will go into it. Until that neckline is able to break to the upside, and you can get a trend reversal in the micro time frame by going above 13.4, which would give you targets of the CME gap closure at 16.8. I'm not going to be uber bullish on Bitcoin. There is hope with this breakout, but sadly, that hope is quickly dwindling as Bitcoin rejects to 109.5. I think there's still hopium, and that would depend on how this previous line of resistance reacts. If we can hold it as support, then great. We will reattempt to break above those lines. If we can break above those lines, you already know the drill. But if you're not able to do that, then sadly, you would see a further correction. This retest, to me, if we can close like this for 2 daily candles, which it appears to be the case, if the price action is like this by tomorrow, you actually confirm this double top. So that's not good. All right, that's not good. And what would you be expecting? I think 100K or 100.9K exactly is a pretty good target, as that is the target of this double top. And additionally, you have pretty good amount of supports from those candle bodies that we made in May. And unless you dip below 98K, you would technically still hold the uptrend on the daily time frame. But honestly, guys, if that line of previous resistance does not hold a support, and if the bull and bear market support breaks the downside, then you would be expecting quite dramatically lower levels. And below 107.2, I would be closing my personal long positions and actually flipping fully short. Okay, I know it doesn't sound good. I know. So I will give you some good news. And the good news is every single cycle, at least the prior one and the one before that, September marks the low on the bull and bear market support band. And in 2021, you went up by approximately 75% from the lowest point to the highest point. In 2017, in September, you also saw that retest, and that propelled you to $20,000 at the CME launch, and that was about 555% to the upside. Clear diminishing returns, so even if this is the low, I wouldn't be expecting personally anything over 158. The simple reason being is based off of Fibonacci analysis, but if you want full details on that Fibonacci TA, then I would definitely recommend watching the Moon Show Daily Crypto Live I did just 36 minutes ago, and that will give you a good understanding on that Fibonacci breakdown. So far, that's all I can say for Bitcoin. There's a few charts that my friends, Benjamin Cohen, he shared. The fear and greed index, look, we're not in extreme fear. We're still in neutral. So yes, a dump to 109 isn't really causing that much fear in the markets, but you would have that fear if Bitcoin dipped to 100K, and that would mark possibly a good DCA. But until that time, or if that time happens, I'm not going to really go into it so much. Then we look at the S&P. Historically, the S&P tops in Januaries every 4 years. Yeah, every 4 years, because it follows the liquidity cycle. Bitcoin also follows the liquidity cycle. So Friday, 26th of Jan 2018 was the top of the S&P 500. Then you saw a top in the 4th of January 2022. When you look at the tops for Bitcoin, the 2018 top was for the S&P, it was in 2018, but Bitcoin actually topped before in 2017. So it was topping first before the S&P topped. In the prior cycle, the same thing happened. Bitcoin tops first and then the S&P tops. I still wouldn't mark this as the top until those conditions are met, like you guys know. But it would make sense that Bitcoin tops first before the S&P, as there's always a lag between capital shifting from Bitcoin to altcoins. You see altcoin season, and then once altcoin season is done, the S&P and altcoins and all of crypto go into a bear market. The key takeaway is, I would say, I think the top will happen in Q1 for everything, and that's going to be the time where I'm going to be selling a little bit of my Bitcoin and almost 100% of my altcoin positions. The fact that the Fed is going to be cutting rates, not a good sign either. Every time you get aggressive rate cuts, that also leads a falling S&P, because you price in those Fed rate cuts and then you propel based off of those expectations. But then following the actual news of it happening, you get the selling pressure. And finally, Bitcoin Fuel here on X also posted a fractal that is taking place on Bitcoin in 2007 with the Japanese stock market, 2021 with the S&P 500, and in 2000 with the S&P 500 also. You tend to see a bump and run reversally pattern. So you create these highs and then you dump to supports. I know you can't see that because of my face, but you dump to supports. Then you keep that support and eventually you break below those supports and enter the bear markets. If that support is broken, again, something concerning, just to keep on the back of your mind. Nothing much more to add. Honestly speaking, just please, please, please watch out for the line of prior resistance turning into potential support. If you can see the bounce and there's still hopium. We still have hopium on the macro time frame as long as the bull and bear market support band holds, but if those break, I can't do anything. I really can't do anything. So with that said, I still think altcoin season will happen, so don't worry. It's just, personally, I don't think it's going to be anything near what we saw in 2020 due to the lack of liquidity events in comparison and relativity. Rates are not going to drop to zero. You're not going to see people getting free money from stimulus checks. You're not going to see we're not going to see the same amount of liquidity being injected into the market like what we got in 2020. I think we can see some sort of liquidity injection, which will help altcoins, but I think selective altcoins can do well, but we won't see put money in anything and they will all go bananas. I don't think that that's going to happen. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Appreciated, and I'll see you all on the next video shortly tomorrow morning, following my interview with Jamie Coote. So take care, and as always, bye-bye.